This is a short video describing the reading lesson plan. It is a review. For your lesson plan for this class, Special Ed 514, you are to choose a chapter from a trade book. So you're preparing a lesson plan for one chapter of a trade book, and I would use the trade book that you have selected for this class. Undergrads, if you are in the DCD program, you can choose a picture book. These are the 4 parts that comprise the reading lesson plan. It's simple, it's meant to be effective, doesn't have all the bells and whistles. And I'll go over each one of these parts again very quickly. The purpose. Every lesson plan should have a purpose. What is the goal? Why are you doing what you are doing? And the purpose here is for students to read and enjoy. Insert story or chapter title here. That's for narrative text or stories. If it was an expository text, informational, students will read and understand. That is our purpose. That is why we are doing what we are doing. We are creating a plan to create a learning experience whereby students will read and enjoy blank. By the way, the number one goal of a reading teacher is to help students fall in love with books. Once they do that, 98% of your job is done. Here are some examples. These are chapter books. Students will read and enjoy Shiloh, Chapter 5. There were no chapter titles in this chapter book. Students will read and enjoy The Secret of the Indian, Chapter 4, Night in the Dead. Simple as that. Everything that follows should support that. The pre-reading activity. The goal is to get them to read the story, get them ready to read the story. The goal is not to do the pre-reading activity. So sometimes students err in making the pre-reading activity too elaborate, too long, too creative. It's like Ed McMahon, introduce Johnny Carson and get off the stage. Anywhere from 2 to 5 minutes in duration, maybe even 1 to 5 minutes in duration. It gets them ready to read. Ideally, after your pre-reading activity, they can read the story by themselves. Here are some pre-reading activities that we have covered. I would recommend for this benchmark reading lesson plan one of the purple ones. Remember, always make the connection between the pre-reading activity and the story. Here are some vocabulary words found in our story, all right? Now remember, this story is about read, see what happens when, but there should always be some connection or some hook between the pre-reading activity and the story. Remember, the goal of the pre-reading activity is to get them ready to read. Here are some examples. It's a story map, and you can read that by yourself at your leisure. Stop and pause. Here is a story preview. Along the way, Henny Penny meets a few friends and one not-so-friend. Let's read the story and find out what happens, all right? Setting the hook. Simple, effective. It doesn't have to be complicated. It has to be simple and effective. This is an objective. This was in the past when I used objectives. Now I have been enlightened. We use lesson purpose or purpose statements. The during reading portion. Here you describe exactly how you want students to read, how they'll be reading. And it should be written such that a substitute teacher can pick up your reading lesson plan and know exactly what to do. Your choices here. Students will read the story silently. Students will find a reading buddy and find a spot in the room, and they will read to each other, trading off every other paragraph or page, etc. Or they will whisper read, a 6-inch reading voice. Right? You need to describe that. So during reading, it will simply be a description of one of those 3. No, not ever round robin reading or popcorn reading. That's where you call on students and they read things out loud. Why? Because that is not real reading. In our real lives, we are never asked to read that way. As well, it does not enhance comprehension. It promotes word by word, letter by letter reading, and it creates more tension and anxiety, and it is boring. We'll talk about that later, but under no circumstances, not ever, not even if you were offered $1 million, no round robin reading. It is bad educational practice. Don't do it. Whew, get myself worked up. All right. During reading, the students will read the story silently to themselves. What could be more simple than that? Okay. Students will read Henny Penny silently to themselves. The post-reading activity. Here you want them to manipulate or be engaged with an idea from the story. And I'll be talking about the Tompkins text describes 5 phases of the reading lesson plan. We are just focusing on the first 3. Manipulate or become engaged with an idea. Do something. Do something with the story idea. Extend it, manipulate, get involved with it. Now, you can use creative writing related to the story, poetry, art, drama related to the story. We read a story about fish, so maybe we create some fish mobiles or create a fish creative dramatics activity or some fish poetry. Or any of the strategies found in chapters 14 and 15 of the book. They're very explicitly described. They work great for post-reading, but they can be used as sometimes as pre-reading. But any of these are described. You are intelligent adults. You can go to chapter 14, and there's a paragraph or so that describes each one of them. As well, in the Tompkins textbook, the whole back appendix has different strategies and activities. So for post-reading, use one of these or something found in the Tompkins textbook. Chapter 15, again, a plethora. Use any of these as a post-reading activity. They're all described there. And again, you are using your chapter book for this. Here's an example of a comparison chart. Great post-reading activity. You can compare and contrast anything. Things from the story, characters from the story, different stories, similar there, differences there. All right? Compare and contrast. Here's a plot profile. This was described in the text, but you simply list events and they rate them from happy to sad as they happen. So the events, 1, 2, 3, and they're listed here. Here is a post-reading activity. This is a comparograph or web of comparison, either or, but it's described using nice descriptive language. The criterion.